Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 13th day of June, the 164th day of the year. There are 201 days remaining in 2023. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. June the 12th through the 19th is International Men's Health Week. And we have a special guest to talk about men's health today. Specifically, our guest will talk of his own surprise scare with his health and what we men can do to avoid a similar scare. Should be a great conversation. Our G-list guest today is Eric Simmons. Eric's been on with us before. He's an author and web designer. He's a retired business executive, the current CEO of ESA Inc., a website development firm specializing in creating sites for small businesses, high school and college athletes, authors, poets, and others who seek to project their personal brand on the internet. He's a former Auburn basketball letterman. He is also a self-published author whose written works have appeared on Amazon's bestsellers list 201 times since January 2019. Well, this edition of Tuesday of Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for more than 36 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable and get our roundtable regulars on here. Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning. How we doing this morning? Everybody good?
Yeah, doing well considering, yes.
Yeah, we're hanging in there, Thom.
Okay, good. Well, hang on. So, Barbara, what's happening in your world?
Well, Thom, first I want to say a happy heavenly birthday to my mom. She would have been 84 years old today. And there are a couple other people that are dear and near to my heart that are also celebrating their birthdays today. Arlene Henderson, Cassie Ferguson, and 3-year-old Emery Williams. What I call her my new best friend. So happy birthday to all of them. But also, my heart is very heavy this morning. As you know, we lost someone that's very near and dear to us. Our dear friend, Harvey Glantz, passed away. And, Harvey was an Olympic gold medalist with $1 million smile. But he was one who was a friend to anyone he ever met. And we all heard him speak back in November at an event at Auburn University where the Trailblazers were honored by the James Owens Foundation. And Harvey commanded the room with his speech. The first black head coach at both the University of Alabama and Auburn University, 3-time Olympian. I just can't say enough wonderful things about him, but a dear friend and brother to me. So it is definitely with a heavy heart that I share that news with our viewers today.
Well, on a little lighter note, he said he remembered me because he was in the 7th grade when I was playing at Auburn.
He continues to rub that in, didn't he?
He did. Matter of fact, last phone conversation we had it. Well, I think we all feel that way about Harvey. You guys knew him. I graduated before he got there.
All right.
And it's just a tough thing. He was, I think, when we had the Trailblazers event last fall, a lot of us didn't, you're talking about from 1970 to 1980. A lot of us didn't know each other because we didn't overlap. But it was a great opportunity for everybody to meet each other. And Harvey gave a talk that just knocked the socks off of it. And I
Absolutely.
think President Chris Roberts just kind of, I think Harvey became his favorite at that point.
Absolutely.
Harvey was great. So I'm sorry. That's so. I'm going to come back to you, Barbara. Let's go to Michael. Michael, your feelings on Harvey, and you were there when he was there, I think.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, first of all, I just want to say condolences and thoughts and prayers go out to Harvey's family and his loved ones. And I have to say to all of my classmates, all of us that knew Harvey, we certainly saddened by his loss. And, I just like to say, Harvey, in addition to being a phenomenal athlete, he was a great person and had a just very charismatic personality. And he was one that just, he seems like he loved life so much and he loved to have a good laugh.
He did.
He really loved to have a good laugh, and he had one of these hearty laughs.
Well, I laughed with him even if he was talking about me.
Right.
That's great. Go ahead, Michael. I think you froze.
Yeah, well, I was saying and stuff, his size and everything. So it was just always fun to be around Harvey and to interact with him. I just have to say, I reflect back on when we had an opportunity to write a note to self, to his 7-year-old self. What would he say? And he talked about the things that he experienced and stuff. But the one thing that stuck out to me was the fact that when he said when he was in elementary school and the teacher asked them to write down what their goal was, and he wrote down that he wanted to be an Olympic gold medal winner, and his teacher told him to write something realistic and made fun of him and embarrass him. And just, that hurts to think that a teacher, someone that's entrusted to guide and teach young minds and help develop them, would do that to a young kid. But I have to say, at the same time, I'm happy to know that he got the last laugh, so to speak, because he did become an Olympic gold medalist. And what was sweeter than him having the opportunity to go back and speak at commencement exercises and tell that story? So that was just an inspiration to everybody that was around there, and all these kids that had heard about Harvey Glance and the gold medal winner and all of that, to know that he endured that as a child in Phoenix City, but yet and still he reached his goal. And so throughout all this, that's the thing that warms my heart the most.
You get ready, Barbara. You gonna say something?
No, go ahead, Thom.
The NBA Finals ended last night, and already this morning is the Joker the greatest center that ever played? Is he the greatest? Which I think is silly. But what I will say about Harvey is the people we have put on the pedestals. Bo, Charles, Pat Sullivan, Pat Dye, Coach Jerry, and so on and so forth. I put Harvey right up there with him.
Absolutely.
Because Harvey was on the international stage.
Absolutely.
He wasn't just the best in the SEC.
Right.
He wasn't just the best in America. He was one of the best in the world. And
he was inducted into 14 Hall of Fames, he said. That's just unbelievable. He was a phenomenal man, and not only athlete, but a phenomenal man. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that university will give him some due, because track, it's my opinion, track has never been at the top of the list at Auburn or even in the SEC.
Right.
In my opinion. And Harvey put it up there, man. And I think, and I haven't been to the new track facility or whatever, so I don't know if there's anything, the man just passed, but I think it would certainly be worthwhile to have something to honor Harvey permanently.
Absolutely.
Because he was pretty phenomenal.
And Thom, I'm so glad we had an opportunity to have him on the show. Just 2 weeks ago, he was here with us, and
Yeah.
It was a blessing that he was able to join us that day. So I'll never forget that.
Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, every time I think of him, I mean, I'm not even sad. I'm smiling because he was just electric like that. And when he and I talked, we just spent most of our time laughing. You
Right.
he could say the funniest things, and he just, you know.
And he's the only person I knew that had a nickname for everybody he ever met. It may be a deviation from your name, but he's going to have a special name for everyone.
Yeah, he was. So we were blessed to have him on the show. And you're right. It seems like it was only 2 weeks ago, but it seems like it was forever ago. And,
right.
I even, because I know that when we had the 70s, when the reunion, what'd you guys call it?
Trailblazer.
The Remembrance of the 70s, yeah. President Roberts was there, and man, he really took to Harvey. And, Harvey got up and gave this talk without one note.
Absolutely.
And I mean, he just went through it, and everybody just thought, wow, this is just awesome,
Yes.
And President Roberts wanted to know if he could take a picture with Harvey. And I said, I'm sure he would be willing to do that. And I think they did. So
yes.
Harvey, we love you, brother.
Yes, we do.
Okay. What else you got this morning, Barbara?
Thom, I know you all watched the game last night. I did too, and I'm excited for Denver. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets for winning their first NBA championship. That was huge.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think the fact that the Joker brings that foreign intrigue into it. I think he's different from the other guys, and so I think that made it interesting as well. I don't know if you saw the little clip when they showed him back in Serbia with his horses, and he races. I guess the thoroughbreds, but he's got a race coming up Sunday, so he's got to get home to get his horse ready. But he was special. I saw him play in New Orleans. I was down there working, and it was like, wow, who is this guy? Because I had never heard of him at that point.
Right.
But, the thing that's great. He doesn't jump very high, but he's long. He's long.
He's not off the floor very much, like
and
Michael said. That much.
He can get when he's going to the rack, to the goal. He can stretch that thing out and get it. He's tough.
And
it's all in slow motion.
I was going to say, it looks like he's moving in slow motion. It's like it's this weirdest thing to watch.
I love it when he gets the rebound and his dribble is this high, man. He's dribbling. I don't know if you guys saw the clip where he threw Murray in the pool.
No, I didn't see that.
Last night. Yeah, they were in the locker room. They have a pool in there. And he grabbed Murray, and Murray was trying to get him. He's so big, Murray couldn't get away. And they both went into the pool, man. And, so I think Murray is probably one of his favorites. But it was great.
Yeah.
It was a good series. I thought Miami was I thought Miami was outmanned, but you got to give Miami credit, man. Those guys,
they played good.
They play hard.
They did.
They come to win. They do.
Right.
They play to win. They don't have a lot of wasted motion in what they do.
Right.
Whereas a lot of teams, like when the Celtics were playing, the Celtics had a lot of what I call wasted motion.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't ready. But these guys, Miami was tough. It'll be interesting, but we say that every year, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. And if Denver can, I'm not going to say they're going to repeat again because it's such a tough league.
Right.
But we'll see. Michael, you got something else for us?
Yes, a couple of weeks I mentioned the fact that Clarence Thomas came out against affirmative action. Well, last week, the Supreme Court, they ruled that by a 5-4 vote that the Alabama gerrymandering was violating the African American vote.
Right.
Yes.
And to think about it, it was a 5-4 ruling. And they said the voting right, and this would have allowed them to gut the Voting Rights Act had the Supreme Court voted in favor of that. Instead, they voted against it. And Clarence Thomas was one of the people that voted in favor of gutting the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And I have a real problem with that he would actually do that. Not only did he do that, he wrote a 48-page dissent regarding that. And, I really would just like to have the opportunity to sit down and talk with him one day and understand his thought process on things like this. Given the way that people have had to struggle just to try to assimilate and things that we're still going through right now, and he wants to take us back. I just don't understand it.
I wonder how much of that is him and how much of that is Jenny's influence over him, his wife. Again, no one with his background should even allow that, but she seems to be so vocal and so in control that maybe she's heavily influencing his decisions and what he's doing on the Supreme Court. Not a good situation.
Well,
but
I think the Supreme Court, based on all these trips he's taken and all this personal gain he's gotten, perhaps there will be more scrutiny, more I guess scrutiny is the word as to how they vote and what that vote is influenced by. I remember when he came up, it was a whole Anita Hill thing. I don't know if you guys remember that. Or whatever.
Yes.
How he was against affirmative action, but he had come out of South Georgia, where had he not had affirmative action, he would not have come out of South Georgia.
Right.
So, yeah, some ethical oversight would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is today, former President Trump will have to turn himself in Miami to face the charge of 37 counts. What I find interesting about this is that he is continuing to be defiant, which we expected that, and is saying he's not quitting the race. He's going to continue to run. But on the flip side of it, these people that are in his camp are still in his camp, regardless of these indictments. And there's another one that's coming from Fulton County. But yet and still, they would rather vote for him given all of this stuff. And it doesn't quite register with me because I know that, let's just say, had it been Obama with this, we would have a whole different narrative. And I'm not going to say I was an Obama fan. I'm just talking about what's right, what's objective. If it were Obama, nobody would be supporting him. And that's a fact. True. But yet and still, there's a group of people that are supporting him regardless of what he does. And it's nothing more than a continuous divide. And in my opinion, having Trump at the forefront, and especially in the Republican Party doing the things that he's doing, it's only going to continue to cause issues within the country.
I agree.
I
a lot of
agree with you.
division. But there are a couple of politicians out there who make their names off division, getting people stirred up, divided. Watch out, because they are going to get you.
Right.
They're taking something away from you.
Yeah.
And also, and I haven't read this yet. I've got it to read. My wife is telling me about it. The governor of Illinois has decided that there could be no book bans in Illinois. And I haven't had a chance to get into the details of it, but that's probably for the best. Because some of these book bans are just one person saying you should get rid of this book.
Right.
And I was talking earlier about, how important the library was to me growing up, and how my mom would take me to the library. I was really small, and how I could check out books. And, that's where you learn. You learn what you like, and you learn what you don't like.
Right.
So I applaud him and denounce the others. Okay. Hey, you guys got anything else this morning?
The only other thing I mentioned is, I know that we're talking about men's health, and June is men's health. There's a couple facts that I found, and this one is particularly disturbing. 13.2% of men under the age of 65 do not have health insurance. And 51% of men aged 20 and over suffer from hypertension. And it goes on and on. And it seems like, as Thom was saying earlier, the men just do not go to the doctor to find out what's wrong or get a check. It's something, I guess maybe it's how, when you're a little boy, you're told you can't show any weakness, you can't cry, and all of that type of stuff. And I think maybe it's ingrained because maybe some men feel like going to the doctor is a sign of weakness. I would say that it's a sign of smartness instead of weakness.
I agree.
Back to the book ban. The legislature in Illinois passed a law and the governor signed it. There are no state funds available for banning books.
That's a good thing. I wish other states would follow suit.
It's a sensible thing.
Yes.
Anyway, okay. You guys got anything else?
No.
All right. Well, let's go to Sean. She's got a minute for us.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Father's Day is this Sunday, June 18th, and we have a very special show for all of our viewers. Here is a tribute to the men that made a difference in our lives. Enjoy.
right.
great. That was
Very
great.
nice. Thank you, Sean. That was great. All right. All right. So let's go to the G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Eric Simmons. Eric is the CEO of SE Inc., a website development firm specializing in creating sites for small businesses, high school and college athletes, authors, poets, and others who seek to project their personal brand on the internet. Former Auburn basketball letterman, he's also a self-published author whose written works have appeared on Amazon's bestsellers list 201 times since January of 2019. To date, 207 libraries worldwide, including 9 of the largest public libraries and the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, have purchased 257 copies of his self-published books. His podcast and YouTube interviews have garnered global attention from authors in the United States and 8 countries who seek to get their books into libraries. His latest book, Prostate Cancer Came a Knockin', opened as the #1 hot new release on Amazon in the prostate disease category. The book is his story of discovery, despair, determination, and divine intervention related to his battle with prostate cancer. So let's bring on Eric Simmons. Eric.
Hi, good morning, Thom, Barbara,
How are
Michael.
you, man?
Good morning.
Great. War Eagle, everybody.
War Eagle.
All right. So take us through your journey and your advice. We'll go through your journey first, and then we'll give advice to other men.
Okay. Well, Thom, sad to say, I was one of those men who didn't feel a need to go to a doctor. I watched my dad live to the age of 90. There was no history of cancer in our family. And my wife, bless her heart, she would plead with me, just, hey, Eric, you stop going to the doctor. I don't know why, but now that you're getting older, please go because you need annual checkups. And I had this former athlete mentality that, my body is a well-oiled machine. I've been through a lot of physical training and rigor. Cancer can invade my body. I'm immune to such. That cancer happens to other people. So that was my mindset. And I think a lot of men are very bullheaded about seeing doctors. But as we get older, it becomes more critical. So what happened to me, Thom, as I moved into my 60s, I started getting up at night, having more frequent urinations. I started urinating anywhere from 5 to 7 times a night. I would talk to my cousins and friends and say, hey, I'm urinating more at night. Are you guys having that? Oh, yeah, Butch, that's just old age. But I didn't ask them how many times they were going. That was something I failed to do. Now, little did I know this repeated urination was a sign of prostate cancer. It's a warning sign. I didn't know that. The other thing that started happening to me, Thom, was when I would shower, I would notice that the top of my feet were beginning to darken. And so my mindset was, wow, all of those ankle breaking moves I put on guys in basketball, having to wear heavily wrapped tape around our ankles as athletes. Michael, you and Thom remember that from high school and college ball. So I figured here we've got ruptured blood vessels that are finally now surfacing. And that's why, just a lot of pressure and impact on my feet. I didn't know that skin discoloration was another warning sign of prostate cancer. A third thing that was happening, I had started losing weight and I couldn't figure out why. I probably lost in a year about 20 pounds and I was never hungry and I never knew why I wasn't hungry. A loss of weight is a warning sign about prostate cancer. So I believe my first signs began in 2017. I thought I had a urinary tract infection. I went to an outpatient clinic and it turns out I had a yeast infection. And I had an argument with the nurse and I said, men don't get yeast infections, only women. She says, no, 2 to 3% of men do. It can happen due to an allergic reaction. She gave me about 3 reasons that could cause a man to have a yeast infection. Fast forward to November 21. And one day I had gone to the bathroom to urinate, and the pain was excruciating.
Mm.
It felt like someone had taken a red hot poker and just run it right up my urethra. It was so bad that when I finally urinated, I grabbed the sink and I fell to the floor.
Mm.
And I guess I screamed on my way down, and I literally was hugging the toilet. My wife runs down the stairs. She says, "Eric, what's wrong?" I said, "I'm still having trouble urinating." She said, "Honey, please go to see a doctor." I went to the doctor. I went to the outpatient clinic thinking I had a urinary tract infection. And the nurse tells me the doctor wants you to go to the emergency room right now. I said, "Right now? For what?" She said, "Eric, your bladder is as tight as a drum. We don't have a CAT scanner to see what's wrong, but you got to go like now." So I'm here again, Mr. Overly confident former athlete. I said, "Sure, I'll go to the emergency room." I came home and sat at home for an hour, not knowing that my clock is literally ticking. I've got a time bomb about to happen inside of me. I get to the emergency room and we're in the height of COVID. I mean, the place was packed. It was chaos. An hour and a half later, I go into the emergency room, and after taking a urine test and a blood sample, the emergency room doctor comes in and introduces herself and says, "Hello, Mr. Simmons. I'm so and so. As an update, you've just suffered acute renal failure." I almost called her the B word. I wanted to say, "B, you're lying." I said, "There's no way. I mean, my kidneys don't hurt." My kidneys had failed. In medicine, they use a metric called effective glomerular filtration rate, EGFR. My EGFR when I went into the emergency room was a 6. And in my mind, that means my kidneys were functioning at a 6% level. Dialysis range is 0 to 9. I was in dialysis range. I was sick, and I mean very badly sick, and never didn't even know it. So what the doctors discovered was I had a blockage, and they were trying to figure out the blockage, and the blockage was related to my urethra. And a doctor gave me a rectal exam, and my prostate had greatly enlarged. And for men in your audience, Thom, according to the National Cancer Institute, your prostate, when we're 20 years old, the male prostate is about the size of a walnut. My doctor uses the example that the prostate is an orange and the urethra goes through the center of the orange. It's a straw. So this is my prostate, and here's my urethra. Okay. And your urethra is where urine and sperm go through. One of the functions of the prostate, it's a gland. One of its functions is it creates liquid that goes into the production of semen, which allows sperm to swim. So what happened to me, what was happening very slowly, let's assume the cotton is cancer. Cancer was beginning to grow inside of my prostate, and it was creating pressure on my urethra, my straw. And what happened by the time I got to the emergency room, the frequent urination was because my urethra was getting compressed. By the time I got to the emergency room, my urethra had completely shut. So no urine could come out and everything was backing up. My bladder extended. Your bladder is down in your pelvic region. My bladder had gotten so large, the doctors found it up in my sternum. It was
Mm.
almost in my chest. Now I've got two problems. I've got a blockage, which we later found out was prostate cancer. I've got an extended bladder. And because urine isn't being expelled, my kidneys failed. So I was immediately placed in intensive care. I had an 11-day hospital stay. And my wife and I feel if I'd waited a day or two longer, I probably would have died from something, either the extended bladder rupture, something. It could have been drastic. And all of this, and I own it. I'm owning it now. But all of this was because I was one of those men that refused to go see a doctor. It hurt my wife. My kids were scared out of their minds, and my medical negligence put me in a position where I could have died simply because I never went to see a doctor about my prostate, and I didn't know that men's prostate and how it was functioning could be checked with a blood test. It's called a prostate specific antigen test. And with that blood test, a doctor can have an idea of how your prostate is doing. I never heard of that. And I had a negative connotation about rectal exams. I felt that they were a violation of my masculinity. So I was the poster child for men in terms of I don't want to go to the doctor. And now that I've developed cancer, I'm a poster child for if you don't go, you could die. And let me share with you some of the repercussions of what happened to me. I was diagnosed with grade 4B prostate cancer. The highest grade of cancer is 5. Having grade 4B means not only do I have prostate cancer, but it's likely spread to other areas of my body. My prostate cancer has spread, ladies and gentlemen, to 5 areas of my body because of my medical negligence. And here's some other things that happened. In a span of 5 months, my family and I incurred $255,000 in medical bills.
Damn.
I had 68 hospital and doctor's office visits. I had to wear a catheter for 6 months. And a catheter, if you don't know what that is, I had heard of them, but I didn't know what it was. You remember, I've got this blockage in my urethra. It's pinched. So to help me urinate, you have to insert a catheter up through the ureter and up into the bladder so that you can urinate. I had to insert this 14-inch catheter in me for 2 months because I got tired of wearing the internal catheter. I wanted more freedom of movement. So 5 to 7 times a day, I self-catheterized. Millions of people, to my knowledge, I know it's frightening, millions of people around the world self-catheterize. Another thing, 1 in 8 men in America will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime, according to the American Cancer Society. 1 in 41 of those men will die from prostate cancer. The prognosis is more dire for Black men. 1 in 4 of us, 25%, will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in our lifetime, and we are twice as likely to die from prostate cancer than our male white counterparts here in the US. I had to have 3 cystoscopies, and what that is a urologist takes a scope with a camera on the end of it, and it goes inside your penis, and he or she can inspect the condition of your urethra and also the condition of your bladder. I had 3 of those. So while my urologist was performing the cystoscopies, she placed stents, little small catheters inside of my ureters, which come down from the kidneys and go into your big urethra. So I've got 3 catheters in me, and this went on for a period of 5 months. I had to have 2 nephrostomy tubes placed in me inside of my kidneys because the thought process was my doctors thought I was going to have to be placed on dialysis. If my kidneys had failed, they wanted to be able to get the urine directly from my kidneys into these nephrostomy tubes and into urine bags that would be placed behind my back. So these nephrostomy tubes used a connector that the urine bags would attach to. So these things were like AA batteries. They were clear plastic connectors. I had to sleep on these things as hard as a battery for 2 months. The pain was so excruciating. You know, you first might say, well, why didn't you sleep on your stomach, Eric? Remember, I've got a catheter inside of me. So rolling over and sleeping on a catheter, that's incredibly uncomfortable. And I sleep on my back naturally. So I've got these 2 hard plastic capsules right behind my back that I'm lying on. The pain was so excruciating, I thought about committing suicide twice.
Oh my God.
The first occasion I said, this is killing me. I can blow my brains out, you know, because I'm starting to think I have cancer. I hadn't been diagnosed yet, but everything is going wrong. And my thought process is it's got to be cancer. I said, I just got to end my life. And I said, if I do that, 1, it's going to be too traumatic for my wife and my children. So I had to come up with an alternative. I said, I've complained to my doctors and nurses that I can't sleep at night because of my medication and these hard plastic tubes. And so they knew I was having difficulty sleeping. I said, if I overdose on my medication, it'll look like an accident. I
Wow.
mean, I was in that bad of shape, people. I was having suicidal thoughts because I was medically negligent. I didn't go see a doctor. I didn't get checked for prostate cancer. I was negative. I had a negative viewpoint of rectal exams. And here I am. That viewpoint has put me in a situation where I'm about to die, literally. I had two whole nuclear body scans. And what that's for is when it's determined that you have cancer, they want to see if the cancer is spread to other areas of your body. And in this case, my neurologist, my nephrologist, I'm sorry, my urologist was looking to see if cancer had spread to my bones. Now I'm frightened out of my mind as I go through this chamber of this nuclear machine. I'm not claustrophobic, so I can handle those things. And I knew about diagnostic imaging equipment from selling the equipment at GE. I sold everything but CAT scanners and PET. I sold everything but um, nuclear and PET scan. I sold CAT scanners, MRIs, and X-rays. So I understood the lingo. And I knew when they told me nuclear scan, I said, oh my God, if cancer is in my bones, I'm as good as dead. I ended up having to have two nuclear whole body scans. So 2 times I'm going through this chamber, I'm frightened out of my mind. And I had to have a 3D MRI to see if there was growth inside of me. I had one CT rectal exam. I had one biopsy. That's where they take 12 tissue samples of your prostate to see if it has cancer. And after the biopsy, 40% of my prostate had cancer. I was grade 4, high risk for the cancer spreading to other parts of my body. Two of my doctors used this description of my situation. Eric, you're in a bad way. When a doctor tells you you're in a bad way, I felt it was time for me to get my will updated. So, Thom, in my book, Prostate Cancer Came a Knocking, it's about this journey of 5 months that I had with my cancer. I'm still dealing with it. But the good news is I had a measurement called the prostate specific antigen, measurement. My PSA level was 46 before I had my prostate removed. 46 is off the charts because 0 to 9, I'm sorry, 0 to 5.5 for a man my age is considered normal. I'm 9 times the normal. After my surgery, my PSA level dropped to 0.63. Hooray, man, I'm doing cartwheels. It looks like we got all the cancer. A month later, my PSA rose to 0.73. We didn't get it all. It had spread to 5 areas of my body. Currently, I'm undergoing, fortunately, I didn't have to undergo chemo or radiation. I was offered the opportunity to be in a clinical trial where I would take an oral medication. And the strategy behind prostate cancer cells that many doctors have is your male testosterone, which gives us our bravado, is what feeds the prostate cancer. It's the fuel that gives it its energy and allows it to grow. If you reduce the male testosterone level, the cancer starves itself to death. And so my medication is slowly starving my cancer. And I'm pleased to report 6 months ago, my PSA level had dropped to 0.03. I mean, the cancer is almost gone. It's in remission. 3 months ago, my PSA level was 0.01. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
I'm almost
Amen.
healed, right?
Yeah.
So the book takes the reader through this incredible journey I have, and it's designed for two things. It's to show men, black or white, or any race, the ramifications and the possibilities of what can happen to you if you don't go get your prostate checked. The range that doctors tend to say is when you turn 55, you need to have a prostate exam. I'm encouraging men, particularly black men, start as early as 45. I've talked to two black men in their 40s that are younger than me and 45 years old that have prostate cancer. So I think we should all start getting checked as we get into our mid 40s. So it's a story of, I'm an example. The book is an example of what can happen to you if you don't get checked. I'm the epitome of what can go wrong.
Eric, do you have a copy of the book with you?
I do. I'd have to step away and go grab it. I should have it. I can do that.
Well,
for you.
or you could just tell them where they can get a copy.
Okay. Sure. Prostate Cancer Came a Knocking is available in bookstores worldwide. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you name it, you can find it. My first sale internationally occurred last month. We had a sale in Germany, and the book symbolizes 2 divine interventions that I had during this whole process. When I was in the emergency room, I saw a bright light, and I knew I was in the presence of God, and it gave me comfort that whatever was going on with me, I would be okay. And after my prostate was removed, I saw a right wing of an angel, and I felt that was reaffirmation that I would be okay. I asked my oncologist, who's given me my medication, had she ever had a patient tell them they've had divine interventions related to prostate cancer. And here's what she told me. She said, Eric, when I was in medical school, we actually studied the impact of anesthesia and whether it might have caused these visions or whether it was something else. And I said, what did you doctors conclude? She said, we couldn't come to a conclusion. So my thought process was, I know you couldn't because you don't know what God's going to do, what he's capable of. And so the second part of the reason why I wrote the book, Thom, it's for women. Many women try to get men to go see their doctors, and we don't do it. And bless my wife's heart, she begged and pleaded with me over the years to go see a doctor. Many women are like my wife. And so my book, I wanted to serve as a resource for women. And if they have to read portions of the book to their male loved one, or if they have to show them, what a catheter looks like, and tell them, I don't want this to happen to you, sweetheart. So it's for both men and women.
Okay.
And when we get a chance, when we get to talking, I'll go grab a copy. I got a copy of the book next to me.
Okay. Let's go to some questions here while we still got some time. Michael, Barbara, one of you guys got questions?
Eric, I want to start. I think I read somewhere that you were traumatized as a result of a physical. Now, I know that as athletes and stuff, we had to do our annual physical and go to the doctor before our season started. Right. So is that where you became traumatized and then you decided you were never going to have this done to you again?
You're spot on, Michael. What happened to me, ladies and gentlemen, when I was 13 years old, we had to have physicals to be able to try out for junior high basketball. And incredibly, as a 13-year-old, I go in for this physical, and this doctor, he's touching my genitalia, and I'm very uncomfortable. And then next he says, I want you to bend over on the table, and I want to give you a rectal exam. Well, I'm a 13-year-old. I'm trying to find myself. I'm in puberty. I'm trying to understand girls. My body's changing. And, all of this is going on. And now this man is asking me to have a rectal exam. And as his finger entered my rectum, I was so traumatized, Michael, I turned around and I threw a punch at the doctor. And I vowed from 13 years old on, I would never have that happen again to me. So that's where my mindset kind of crept in about rectal exams. That started from the age of 13.
Wow.
Barbara?
Which I just have to say, first of all, you're a walking miracle, and thank God you're still here. So I'm so glad that Cynthia stayed on you and made you go to the doctor. Yeah. But talk about, has any of your doctors mentioned anything about diet and exercise and how that could possibly impact cancer
Incredible.
diagnosis?
Yeah, actually, there are foods that you can eat that are good for your prostate. It's funny, Barbara, I've got this on my desk, but I don't have my book. So my doctors have given me like fruits that I can eat that are healthy and good for your prostate. I'm trying to hold it up so everybody can see it. Right. And they've also given me vegetables you can eat. And I've I've got a second document that says food that you shouldn't eat.
Can you just name a few on both lists?
Okay, sure. So Fruits that you can eat would include apples, berries, cherries, canned fruit, grapes, lemon, lime, pineapple.
Okay.
Vegetables that you can eat include asparagus, broccoli, cabbage, cherry tomatoes, celery, cucumber, eggplants. Vegetables to avoid, these are high potassium vegetables that can be can be harmful to your prostate. Artichoke, beets, Brussels sprouts, uh, carrot juice, tomato juice, and vegetable juice. These are high in potassium. Not good for the kidneys, the male kidneys. Spinach. Fruits to avoid, Tom, include avocados, bananas, honeydew melons, which I love.
Mm.
All the good stuff is bad for you, it seems.
Right.
Mangoes, nectarine, and oranges.
Wow.
I know.
Things that
Wow.
most people think are healthy and everyone should be eating plenty of. So that's good
Right.
information
That's a
to
great
have.
question. And Barbara, you said something ironic. You said I'm a walking miracle.
Hmm.
My doctors and nurses were so surprised at my recovery. I mean, their mouths would drop. My measurements, almost all of my measurements are back to normal, with except one or two. My potassium was a little high, and there
Hmm.
was one other, but almost all of my blood measurements, urine measurements, are almost back to complete normal. And I had a conversation with my old high school girlfriend who's a pathologist, a retired pathologist, the study of diseases. They're the doctors that tell doctors that how much prostate cancer you have.
Right.
She told me, I said, Linda, sometimes I feel like I'm a walking miracle. She says, Butch, you are.
Wow.
So it's ironic that you would say that. I mean, I feel truly blessed that I'm alive, because at one point, as we used to say in sports, it wasn't looking good for the home team.
Mm. Wow.
Who's Michael?
Yes.
Barbara.
You know,
Go ahead.
Michael.
Barbara just finished.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
Eric, you mentioned the PSA test
Right.
and how you were not aware that doctors could use the PSA test to
Right.
test your prostate and where you are.
Mhm.
I think that may be another situation of you not going to the doctor, because had you been going to the doctor,
Right.
you would have found out that they now do PSA tests. But still, some doctors want to do it the old-fashioned way,
Yeah,
but
correct. Correct.
it's certainly a compromising position to be in that situation,
Right.
and it's
Right.
somewhat humiliating, but at the same time, in the long run, it's better for you. But
Exactly.
with technology now in modern medicine, there are more and more things that are going on that's not as invasive as there used to be.
Absolutely right. And in my case, Michael, I was a candidate. One of my treatment options regarding my prostate was to remove it. And being somewhat of a little technology geek, I had already read up on robotic prostatectomies, the removal of the prostate with a robot assisting. And when you talk to people and you say robot, they go, there's no way I'm going to let a robot operate on me. The robot isn't operating on you. The doctor is in full control. And he has his hands through these gloves, and he's got this magnifying glass that he can see inside of your body. And instead of having to open you up and have an invasive procedure, Michael, that might require 2 to 3 weeks of recovery, the robot's little fingers, and they're tinier than this Allen wrench, the robot's fingers are inserted in you as my prostate's being removed, and the doctor is making the incision, and the robot is moving with his hands. And when the doctor sews me back up, and you can see the doctor's hands doing the stitching, and the robot is doing the work. So it's called a robotic assisted prostatectomy, and it's fantastic. But when I tell people I had a robotic, a robotic prostatectomy, they're like, "Man, I'm not letting a robot touch me." It's not the robot doing the work; it's the
Right.
doctor doing the work.
So, Butch, you talk
Yes.
about the robot and how that affects you. You also told me that one of the things that you had to become comfortable with was the fact that a lot of the examination that went on around your penis and so on and so forth was by women.
Yes.
by women doctors and women nurses.
Right.
And
So
how uncomfortable you were with that.
I was extremely uncomfortable with it, Tom. And in the book, I introduced, and this I never told people about this in my entire life. I introduced my left and my right shoulder angels. From the time I was 4 years old, I felt a presence. I felt angels on my shoulders. And curious as to whether other people had that experience, I learned that in the Islamic religion, there is a belief that we have shoulder angels. One on the right records our good deeds, and one on the left records our bad deeds. So it made me realize at least I'm not insane with these angels. So I'm telling the readers about my angels. And one day, and Tom, this is a great lead in. I went when I had the yeast infection scenario. The nurse left to go get my prescription, and she was a very attractive woman. And she came back in, closed the door, and I'm putting on my Auburn leather jacket. You know, it was cold outside. And she says, "Mr. Simmons," and it's not what you say, sometimes it's how you say it. She says, "Mr. Simmons, may I ask you a personal question?" I said, "Sure." She says, "Have you been having sex with anyone other than your wife?" And when she said that, my left shoulder angel said, "Whoa!" And my right shoulder angel, she jumps up, and my left shoulder angel is like, "Player, you still got it, Butch. This woman is hitting on you." And this is what my mind is going through, right? My right shoulder angel is going, "You can't ask this woman if she's interested." But the left shoulder angel is prodding me. This is my conscience. My left shoulder angel is prodding me. Ask this woman if she's interested. So I did not ask her, but I thought she was hitting on me. So when I got home, I'm telling my wife about my yeast infection. I said, "Sweetheart, you're not going to believe what happened to me." She says, "What?" I said, "The nurse asked me if I'd been having sex with anyone other than you." I said, "Can you believe that?" And my wife, with a straight face, looked at me. She said, "Did you ask her if she was interested?" And so it was like my left shoulder angel was playing devil with me and my wife. And so I
Wow.
kind of take the readers through that kind of story, because the book isn't all doom and gloom.
Right.
But yes, being a man and having women that you don't know touching you and your penis and giving you rectal exams, yeah, that was extremely uncomfortable for me.
Okay. Any other questions?
Barbara shaking her head said, she's like, "Boy, you've been through a lot."
You've been through a
Just
lot,
your
Butch.
expression.
I tell you, we're just glad that you're here. Thank God.
Yeah,
I'm
we
glad to
are.
be
We
here.
appreciate you being here with us. And the comments, everybody appreciated, and they say how much they've learned.
Oh,
that
wow, great.
you've probably saved a life or two
Yeah.
today.
Oh man, I hope
And
so.
so we thank you for coming on, man. It's been great. And then Men's Health Week is great. And before you go out, if you'll just quickly, we talked about Harvey earlier, and you were friends with Harvey as well. You got any comments about Harvey?
Yeah, my cancer snuck up on me, and I was stunned to hear about Harvey, because when I saw him at the Trailblazers event, my first thought was, "Wow, this guy looks great. Physically, he looked great." And I'm a guy, and I was like, "Man, I kind of wish I could wear that suit." I mean, the dude looked good. He was a stud. He was the best dressed guy in the whole place. And so, to see someone of that level of apparently healthiness on the outside, and then to learn of his passing is shocking. And I think a lot of people didn't even know I had cancer. It's sad, but the message that you're bringing today in your show is that men, our health is important. Sadly, Tom, there are men who take better care of their cars than they do their bodies.
Mhm.
And just like your car, I mean, you go take a tune-up, you got to have a tune-up, you got to have an oil change, you got to have it checked to keep it running smoothly. And the same is the case, I've learned the hard way, with seeing your doctor. Regular checkups can help save your life. So
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. We appreciate it. Man,
You're welcome.
this has been wonderful.
Tom,
Thank you
did
so
you want
much.
me to grab you a copy of the cover of the book real quick to show people?
Please.
Okay, hang on, guys.
Yeah, this is very informative today.
Yes.
And to have somebody like Eric come out and spell it out, that helps a lot of other people from sharing.
Absolutely. And I hope that every man listening and watching today will be making doctor's appointments and making sure they go get checked.
So the book is available in ebook, paperback and hardcover copy. And I had it done in hardcover for the women. So, because, you know, if we don't go, they got something, you know, come on, knucklehead, let's go see your doctor. So it's available worldwide in 3 formats, and it's Prostate Cancer Came a Knocking. You see the right wing of an angel, and you should see a little bright light, which reflects the 2 divine interventions that I had that were watching over me during my battle with prostate cancer.
Wow.
Sounds good, Bush. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right,
I appreciate you guys too.
Thank you.
Okay, that was wonderful. Okay, my closing commentary for today, or as I see it. On one of my recent morning bicycle rides, I try to do a bicycle ride in the morning, sometimes about 6 o'clock. I noticed the cars in the parking lot of a condo building. When you're on your bicycle, you see more things than you do than a car as you zoom by. I noticed that most of the cars in the parking lot were, quote, foreign cars. Now, American cars are made in foreign countries and foreign cars are made in America now, but that's what it was. So, but it was a generation ago that if you bought a foreign car instead of an American car, that was not culturally popular. Certain jobs, certain cultural requirements meant you needed to have an American-made car, but not today. It's different. So doing my unofficial analysis of the cars in the parking lot, most of which were not traditionally American, it made me think of the cultural changes that are taking place in today's culture. Particularly, I thought of the controversies surrounding Bud Light, Target, Cracker Barrel, and the trans controversies. A generation from now, will these cultural controversies still be a big deal, or will they have passed the way that the integration of schools has passed, the way that foreign cars have passed? Welcoming a trans family into a Cracker Barrel restaurant in the future probably won't get a second look. Whoever's photo is on a Bud Light can probably won't matter nearly as much a generation from now as it does now, which is kind of silly to me. You know, my friend told me, he said, I can't believe that you drink Bud Light. I said, well, if I drink it, is something going to happen to me? Am I going to change? I just think that once the next election is over and that trigger point is over, we'll see all of this stuff in our rearview mirrors. And the people who use cultural change as a weapon won't be able to do that anymore. Hopefully they will learn it's better to educate yourself and be for something rather than against something that you have very limited knowledge of. When you go back to integration and you see those hateful photos and videos of people who are against something out of their own ignorance, we all see them as being behind the times, being ignorant, being hateful, being followers. Follow the crowd. It's so much easier to be against something than to take the time to educate yourself and make an independent decision. Times move on and culture changes. And that is how I see it on this June 13th in the year 2023. That's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you all. We want to thank our G-list guest, Eric Simmons. Eric, you were great. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thank Barbara, Sean, Joyce. And that's it for this Tuesday, June the 13th. Remember, enjoy yourself. Go to your doctor. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.